Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we are talking about Metroid Prime 4. We now have new info that is strengthening the argument for this game to be shown off very soon. And this new info even seems to strengthen some arguments, theories, and even a rumor I reported on last year. And so that's what I would like to talk about today. But before going forward, let me point out that we are aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Leaving a like is also super helpful, and enjoy the ride as we talk about Nintendo every day. So a lot of this new info has been collected and reported by Super Metal Dave 64, friend of the channel, an amazing channel especially if you care about Metroid Prime updates, so I strongly recommend you go and check out that video. He goes into detail on a number of things, not everything that will be covered in this video, so once you're done here, check that one out. It will be linked in the description below. Massive props to Dave, he did an amazing job there. But there are some things he brought up in that video that are giving me great reason for optimism and are putting some things I've discussed in the past into better perspective here. So before getting into that info though, I wanted to bring up something I did report on last year. And that's this video I posted on March 31st, 2023. And the video was titled, Rumor, Metroid Prime 4 is complete. And the source of the rumor, I guess technically, was me because I was fortunate enough to be somewhat part of a conversation that took place, and I sat on this info for a while and waited until I had permission to talk about it, but in a vague way. And so because I had to be vague, and because maybe it's not something I'm totally used to reporting on things that I've heard behind the scenes, I wouldn't call myself an insider. There was definitely a lot of pushback and challenge that went into that video, especially because throughout the year of 2023, we still saw job hirings at Retro Studios, and the game was not shown off. But a couple things. One, job hirings aren't really a good metric for figuring out how far into development a game is. And that could be for a number of reasons. In the case of Retro Studios and Metroid Prime 4, a lot of those job hirings didn't even specify they were hiring for Metroid Prime 4, just something. And so if the rumor is true and Prime 4 is complete or nearing completion, then Retro Studios would be positioning themselves to work on their next game, right? This is all with the assumption that they would only be working on one game at a time, which a lot of developers don't do. But many people saw these job hirings and made the assumption that, oh, if Retro Studios is hiring, there's no way Metroid Prime 4 is nearly done. But beyond just them potentially hiring for another game, hiring happens all throughout development. So even if the game is content complete and they're simply playtesting it, polishing it up, getting it ready for a big reveal when the time is right, they may still be hiring. Or say they have plans to go beyond the main release of the game. Say, for example, the game is going to have multiplayer, is going to have DLC updates for years to come. They would be continuing to hire talent preparing for that, wouldn't they? So in other words, looking at job hiring to try and understand how far into development or if development is done doesn't really tell you much because there's just far too many variables. But then the other thing is that Prime 4 wasn't shown off in 2023, so if the game was nearly done, why didn't we see the game? Well, in that video, I made sure to make a point that just because the game was in this state doesn't mean we would see it in 2023. Of course, me being a Metroid fan, I always have the optimism that we will see Metroid Prime sooner than later, but that doesn't mean it will happen. And you might be able to apply this logic to even predictions about it in 2024. Of course, a year later, things become more likely. But there is new info, as I brought up earlier, that is strengthening the argument that this game has been in the polishing stage for a while, and that Retro Studios Nintendo are gearing up for a reveal really soon. So one cool thing that Dave pointed out in his video is that a game developer, Edwin Atwell, has put out some details regarding Metroid Prime 4 on his LinkedIn profile. In his about, it reads, "I'm experienced in Jira and the testing process and have assisted in publishing Call of Duty Vanguard, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and now Metroid Prime 4. Edwin Atwell is a software tester, and here when you look at his experience, he started software testing at Retro Studios, the developer of Metroid Prime 4, March of 2023. And when did I make the rumor video about Metroid Prime 4 being in a complete state? March 31st, 2023. And something that I theorized since then, though did not know, is that the reason I heard something to make me believe this is because they were polishing up the game throughout the year. Basically, what I understood is that they were playtesting. And I've talked about how my belief has been that the state that Metroid Prime 4 has been in is a similar state that Tears of the Kingdom was in its last year and a few months. So going back to when Nintendo and Eiji Aonuma, the producer of the Legend of Zelda series, announced the delay of Tears of the Kingdom in March of 2022, he has told us since that the game was pretty much complete then when they announced the delay. And so, the literal producer of The Legend of Zelda was defining the game as basically complete more than a year out from release, and it was in the polishing stages that entire time. And so, with Metroid Prime 4, it's been in the playtesting stage for nearly a year, basically complete. And so in other words, that rumor that I reported on back in early 2023, we now have evidence to support this claim, and also it strengthens the theory that Nintendo is treating Metroid Prime 4 in a very similar way to the way they've treated Zelda. And that's a big deal. They've been sitting on this game, polishing it up, gearing it up, readying it for the right time so it can do as well as possible. The same way they took their sweet time with Breath of the Wild, the same way they took their sweet time with Tears of the Kingdom, and I've brought this up before, but I'll bring it up again. The only times Nintendo has put out these development update videos, these dedicated videos on their YouTube channel, where they have bad news about a game, is for The Legend of Zelda and Metroid Prime 4, where they announce a delay, but say it to suggest that they are working on the game to the best of their abilities to make it as good as possible. And so my main point here is that Nintendo is pushing Metroid, and they are going to do everything they can to make this game amazing, the same way they do for Zelda. But what does this tell us about the game being about to be shown off? Because all this does is strengthen the theories and rumor that we've had beforehand. They could be polishing it up for years to come, who knows, right? One thing is, how long is Nintendo likely to sit on a high-quality AAA game that's been the polishing stage for nearly a year? How long? Tears of the Kingdom was basically done March 2022, came out May of 2023. 14 months, at least from what we've been told publicly. We also know that Metroid Prime Remastered was rated back in summer of 2021, but didn't release until the beginning of 2023, a year and a half. We also know that Nintendo announced Advance Wars 1-2 Reboot Camp in the summer of 2021, and it was slated to come out December. But because of the war that was going on and Nintendo trying to be careful about the feelings and considerations of others, delayed the game indefinitely. And it didn't release until April of 2023. So Nintendo basically delayed the game another year and a half, but if you account for when it was announced, nearly 2 years. I don't know if Advance Wars 1-2 Reboot Camp was done when they announced it in the summer of 2021, but Nintendo has shown that they're willing to sit on a game for about a year and a half. At least with some of the examples we've seen here, maybe they'll sit on a game for 2 years potentially. So from that, I would gauge that 2024 is a likely time for Prime 4, although not 100% guaranteed, just from that info alone. But there's another really cool discovery that Dave made, and that's that Retro Studios is working with Next Gen Dreams. This is a company that helps put together trailers for other big games, debut trailers. So, if Retro Studios is partnering with this company, the strong implication there is that a trailer is being put together or has been put together to showcase Metroid Prime 4 for the first time. We can maybe make the assumption that Nintendo might show this game off in the next, say, Nintendo Direct. But I will not make that assumption. And this is why. I have personal suspicions. I don't know for a fact or anything like that. It's just my own speculation that the next Nintendo Direct will be a Nintendo Direct Mini. I can't say that for sure. I could very well be wrong. But the reason why I kind of think the next Nintendo Direct we're going to get is a Nintendo Direct Mini is because I think Nintendo is about to show off Nintendo Switch 2 within the next few months, but not eminently, like within the next few weeks necessarily, although of course I hope I'm wrong and they do show it off in the next few weeks. But there is a need to have a direct presentation. But if it is believed that Switch 2, as has been reported by a number of different venues, that it's coming out in 2024, likely the second half of 2024, then Nintendo is very likely gearing up a lot of support, content, and all that for this system in the second half. And looking at the first half so far from what we have announced from Nintendo, we pretty much already have a lineup that would fill up the first half of the year that would be dedicated to Switch. We already have confirmed the first 3 months we're getting another code, then Mario vs. Donkey Kong, then Princess Peach Showtime, and we don't know about April through June yet, but we do know that Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, games that Nintendo has announced for 2024, Luigi's Mansion having been told to be coming sometime in summer, both of those games have recently been rated by the ESRB, suggesting that they are content complete and about ready to release themselves. And so Nintendo may put these games out in the first half of the year, and if that's the case, there's not much else Nintendo could announce to fill up the first half. A couple little things, sure. And so, considering how Nintendo likes to handle their directs, where their directs usually just show us what's coming until they need to tell us more information in the next big third of the year. So typically an earlier direct will give us the announcements we need until the summertime. The summertime direct will give us the announcements we're going to have throughout the year, but we'll get more solid info on the beginning of next year come the September direct. And that's generally how things have worked throughout the Switch era. So with us having most of the info we already kinda need for the first half of the year, just with some clarifications needed and a couple other announcements, they only need a Direct Mini to clarify those things. And so if we're getting a Direct Mini, I don't think they're necessarily going to talk about Metroid Prime 4 in that presentation. I would think Nintendo, especially since they've waited this long at this point to show it off, especially when we have reason to think that they've been sitting on it for a while, so they could definitely have shown it off, that they're saving it for a big special moment and not for just a random Nintendo Direct Mini or a Nintendo Direct that's just telling us about remakes and remasters leading into the summer. I'm getting at Prime 4 being revealed alongside Nintendo Switch 2. I think Prime 4 is still coming to Nintendo Switch, but I think Prime 4 is likely being positioned as one of the big titles in the launch window for Nintendo Switch 2. And so when I'm talking about Metroid Prime 4 being shown soon, I'm thinking at the very latest by the end of this June. Because if the reports of Nintendo Switch 2 are true and we are to expect this system sometime in the second half of 2024, then Nintendo, as they typically do in the summer times, will give us a full showcase of what their second half of the year plans are, and it seems that includes Metroid Prime 4. Of course, that is my speculation based off the info we have. I presented some of that information. I encourage you all to come up with your own conclusions and let me know what you think in the comments below. But that's all for now. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. This is Andres Restart, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.